Good morning. Good morning, traders. How are you all doing today? Karibuni sana. Glad you could all join us this fine Friday morning. Hope everyone had a great week. So for those who are new, my name is Mitch Kaniaro and I'm a trader with Afriforex. I want to welcome you to another Afriforex daily analysis session. Now, you do know during these sessions, we as the Afriforex team, we analyze the markets, we identify what trading opportunities we're looking at taking for the day, and we do share that information with you. So remember, we do have the Afriforex team here. They are here in the back office. So feel free to ask whatever questions or queries you might have in the chat box. And I'll be looking to respond to those at the end of this session. So let's jump straight into it. Start off with sharing my screen. So we'll start off here with the watch list. So now yesterday, our watch list and today, at least there's a big difference. So our focus yesterday was looking for selling opportunities on the Canadian dollar, the US dollar, the Japanese yen, and the Swiss franc, and looking to mix and match those pairs with the pairs on the buy side. So you can see we had the British pound, the euro, the Australian dollar, as well as the New Zealand dollar. Now today, there have been many pairs which actually have moved to the buy side. So our focus today is only going to be looking for selling opportunities on the US dollar, as well as the British pound. So our focus is going to be on these two pairs, looking to mix and match them with all the other pairs on the buy side. So before we do focus on today's pairs, let's have a look at the pairs we did have yesterday that we're not going to be looking at today. Then we'll look at a few screenshots, then we will jump on to today's pairs. So we'll start off with the British pound against the US dollar. Now, yesterday our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, but you can clearly see the big boys were not interested in this pair. The fact that the market has just been ranging, actually just bouncing between such levels. You can clearly see between these two levels right here. Hardly gone anywhere, no real movement to the upside or to the downside. Did get a small pullback, but there was hardly any trading opportunity here on the British pound against the US dollar. So unfortunately, there's no trading opportunity there. There's going to be none today. So the next pair we did have was the euro against Canadian dollar. In this kind of pair, our bias was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the area that John had pointed out, potentially looking for buying opportunities. Now, the price was within this area where they're sellers. So we needed either a pullback to the downside or a breach and a hold above. Now, you can see the price did manage to actually breach and hold above. When you can see, looking at the timings, the market did end up reaching this area around 3 o'clock. We did get a small pullback at around 4. And at 4, it did attempt to go to the upside. But unfortunately, around 5:30, there were some Canadian dollar fundamentals, which did end up bringing a lot of strength. And you can see that strength that did come in. So unfortunately for us today, the euro against the Canadian dollar is off our watch list. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the Swiss franc. Here we were looking for buying opportunities, but it does seem the Swiss franc did end up getting a lot of strength. You can see the three areas that wanted to look for buying opportunities. Now, as the price did pull back, wanted to see whether or not the price is going to hold above this area. It did not. It actually breached this area to the downside, was holding below, hoping to see whether or not the price would end up actually coming back within this area to potentially look for a buying opportunity, but there was hardly anything. So you can see around 4 and 5:30, that's when the market actually ended up starting to go through the downside. Now, remember, once it did reach and hold below the red SNR, there was no trading opportunity, and it did not necessarily give us any clear indication to look for any buying opportunities yesterday. So the next pair we did have was the Australian dollar against Canadian dollar. Similar situation, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. You can see the three areas that John had pointed out. Wanted to see whether or not we could get the price breaking, holding above this area for us to look for buying opportunities. Now, John had pointed out that we were in some sort of small channel going to the upside. Now, the market did end up attempting to break this area to the upside, but you can see that was a probe. Later on, around 3 o'clock, it attempted to go above, was not able to actually come back in and hold above. Can clearly see at 4 o'clock, the US session opened. The price is right there at the top. And remember, the Canadian dollar did end up getting a lot more strength at around 5:30, where you can see the price did end up giving us a probe, holding below, so there was no buying opportunity. And as the price came down, even though the price was holding within this area, due to the fact that the Canadian dollar did bring in a lot of strength, unfortunately, there was no buying opportunity for us on the Australian dollar against the Canadian dollar. Now, the next pair we did have was the Australian dollar against the Swiss franc. Similar situation, our bias was to look for buying opportunities, but the Swiss francs really did show a lot of strength. You can see the price did end up giving us a pullback, coming back within this first area. The price never held above during the London session, so we wanted to see how the price was going to approach this particular bias area for us to look for buying opportunities. And you can see there was a potential buy. Around 5:30, the price did manage to get towards this area, where if you did manage to grab a buying opportunity, should have managed to trade within the seller's area. As you can see, once the price got to that area, the market really did come to the downside. And once it broke this area to the downside and held below, it really confirmed that this level was broken, and it did end up falling off our watches. So moving on to the next pair we did have the New Zealand dollar against Canadian dollar. Now, on this currency pair, there was a small buying opportunity during the London session. You can see the price did manage to break this area to the upside and was actually holding above during the London session. You can see around 10 and 11 o'clock, there was a buying opportunity. I know John had pointed out a level right here, where if we did get the price breaking and holding above, as you can see, based on this illustration, that's exactly what happened. Although this was around midday where that ended up happening, but the price managed to continue going to the upside. But unfortunately, you can see once the US session did come in at 4 o'clock, or once the Canadian dollar fundamentals also came in, bringing a lot of strength, you can clearly see what happened as the price came to the downside, showed us confirmation it was holding below. So there was no buying opportunity for us on this pair. And we can clearly see the Canadian dollar still showing us a lot of strength. So the next pair we did have was the New Zealand dollar against the Swiss franc. Similar situation, wanted to look for buying opportunities, but the buys did not really work out. You can see as the price came down, we did get a small opportunity to look for a buying opportunity where the price attempted to come up at around 530, but we never got the price actually coming back in and holding above. That's what we would have been hoping to see. If we did come back and hold above this particular area, we could have definitely looked for buying opportunities. But you can clearly see that was just a probe, and the price kept on coming to the downside, even reaching our main buyers area during the Asian session today. So unfortunately, another pair that is off our watch list. Now, the next pair we did have was the euro against the Japanese yen. Now, there was a buying opportunity here, which did end up working out quite nicely. You can see the market did end up giving us a pullback during the London session. We got towards this particular buyer's area where it did look as if it had actually breached this area to the downside and was holding. So at that point in time, it did fall off our watch list. But you can clearly see at around 4 o'clock, the big boy buyers actually showed up. The price actually came back in, and it showed us confirmation that the price is holding above. And you can see that was at exactly 530, which did end up giving us a buying opportunity, but you should have made sure to manage your trade within this problem area. Because you can clearly see after that, the price managed to come down, break this area to the downside, and you can clearly see it's still holding below. So the yen pairs did end up getting a bit of strength yesterday. So unfortunately for us today, on the euro against the Japanese yen, there is no opportunity for us. So the next pair we did have was the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen, looking for buying opportunities. And the buys did work out. Similar situation with the euro against the Japanese yen, where you can see during the London session, the price managed to come to the downside. The price in this situation was actually holding above this particular area, which was a good sign. We did end up getting a similar situation where we got a probe coming in around during the US session open. Around 530, the price ended up coming back, confirming that the price was actually holding to the upside. And you can see the price didn't manage to go to the upside right there. But you should have made sure to manage your trade within this area, because you can clearly see the price never actually held above. This was just a probe, and you can clearly see afterwards, the price has managed to continue going to the downside because of that yen strength. So unfortunately for us today, that pair is off our watch list. Now, the next and last pair for review was the New Zealand dollar against the Japanese yen. You can see the story is pretty similar with the yen pairs, and that's a good thing about when you're trading the yen pairs, you can be able to use correlation to be able to help you look for trading opportunities. So you can see during the London session, we got the price actually holding below this area, so no trading opportunity then. We got the price coming back within this particular area. The buyers showed up, where you did end up seeing some big boy buyers coming in. The price gave us a pullback, and around 530, you can see the price managed to go to the upside. Similar story with the other yen pairs, where it did end up giving us a probe, and you can see the yen strength coming in today as well during the Asian session. So that's it for all the pairs for review. So there weren't necessarily that many that did work out there, but we do end up having a lot more opportunities. So before we do jump onto today's pairs, let's end up having a look at a few screenshots that we didn't manage to get before we focus on the pairs that we're going to be looking at today. So we'll start off here with Ravin. Ravin, happy to see a screenshot here. You didn't mind to grab a buying opportunity on silver. Very nice buy right there. It seems where the buyers are. You can see the price really coming up in your favor, and your stop loss already above your entry. So very, very good job on this trade, Ravin. I know you love trading silver, but very, very well done for that. So also next, we get George. George Chege did manage to grab a very nice buying opportunity on the euro against the US dollar. You got the buy where the buyers are. You can see the price coming up in your favor. Good, very good placement of your take profit, not necessarily putting it all the way at the top. This is a level where you can see price has hit it multiple times, so there's a higher probability of it being hit. And happy to see you have already managed your trade very well with your stop loss already above your entry. So very, very good job on this trade, George Chege. So also next we get Millicent. Millicent have to see a screenshot here. It seems like you did take advantage of the yen pairs. We did manage to grab those buying opportunities. First one here on the New Zealand dollar against the yen. Prices come up in your favor. You can see you're within an area where the seller. So I do end up hoping you manage your trade or at least close some of your position. But already we can see this is a risk-free trade based on the fact that your stop loss is above your entry. So very, very good job on this trade, Millicent. And similar situation with the Australian dollar against the Japanese yen. Seems you did end up taking advantage of that yen correlation, entering multiple buys. You can clearly see similar situation where your stop loss is around your break-even entry. So very, very good job on this trade, Millicent. So that's it for all the people who didn't manage sending your screenshots. Remember, guys, if you didn't manage to take any setups based on things that we do share today, feel free to send them in to us. Our contact details are in the video description below. So let's focus on today's pairs. So let's start off with the US dollar pairs. We'll mix and match them with all the pairs on the buy side before we move on to the British pound pairs and do the same thing. So one thing to note in terms of fundamentals, we do have a bit of fundamentals today, at least some news that's going to be coming out. You can clearly see we have some British pound news as well as some euro news that's coming out at 10 o'clock. So we do end up expecting some sort of movement around that time during the London session, as well as during the US session. We do end up having a lot of news. And remember, today being the first Friday of the month, we do have the non-farm payroll. So this will end up bringing in a lot of volatility on the charts. So do make sure you're not necessarily jumping in on your trades once the non-farm payroll news is coming out. Let it make its mess or do whatever it needs to do before jumping in on a trading opportunity then. But at least today, we do end up expecting a lot of volatility on the charts. So let's start off with the US dollar pairs. We'll mix and match them with the pairs on the buy side, then move on to the British pound pairs. So the first US dollar pair we do have is the euro against the US dollar. Now, in this kind of pair, our bias here is to look for buying opportunities. Similar situation to yesterday, looking for buys. But you can see the areas that John had pointed out, although we have adjusted the top one slightly. We wanted to see how the price is going to react within this particular area right here, whether or not we're going to get the price actually coming to the downside or actually breaching and holding above. Now, it would have been a bit difficult to get, but you can see at 4 o'clock, we did end up getting a small push to the upside. That was during the US market open. But similar situation around 5:30, we did end up getting the pullback coming in. So the big boys don't seem necessarily to be much interested in this currency pair, but that's okay. Because today we will still be looking for buys, and the fact that we have a lot of fundamentals, remember, both on the euro as well as the US dollar, we do end up expecting this market to actually move. So in this situation, we'll end up looking for some buying opportunities on this currency pair. Right now, the fact that the price is within the area where the sellers, there's only one of two options we need to wait for. Either a breach to the upside, and the price confirms that it's actually holding above for us to look for buying opportunities there, or we need to end up waiting for a pullback to come in. Now, the one thing you realize is the fact that this market did end up giving a small pullback, but they were not able to actually make a new high. It definitely means that this price, where the price has been bouncing off from or trying to go to the upside, is probably not good enough, and meaning we might need a better price. And that's probably why we could end up expecting the market coming down a bit lower before we do end up looking for those buying opportunities on the euro against the US dollar. So in this one, we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Either big boy buyers are going to come in, or we could see some sellers coming in to incite a few people to look for sells, and we could find the price within one of these two areas. Either here, it could even come back down all the way to this red SNR. Because remember, today we do have the non-farm payroll, so we do end up expecting a good number of volatility on this currency pair. So hope that is clear as we move on to the next US dollar pair. Here we have the Australian dollar against the US dollar. Now the levels are pretty much the same as we did have yesterday, and our bias here was to look for buying opportunities. And you can see a similar story with what we're looking at on the euro against the US dollar. But the price managed to give a small pullback during the London session, came back within some sort of small support and resistance area here, or area where it does seem like it tried to find some buyers. They attempted to go to the upside. The price never managed to actually hold above. You can see at 4 and 5:30, we attempted to go up, but the fact that the price came back in and this was not a real breach, it meant that we needed a better price than this one right here. And you can clearly see as the price is coming down, it is a good sign for us to end up looking for buying opportunities. So we'll focus on the three areas that we will be waiting for to look for these buying opportunities here. Right now, the fact that the price is coming down, it's definitely inciting people to look for sells. But in order for us to look for these buying opportunities, we need a sign that the big boy buyers are actually going to come in. So one of two things can happen. We could end up finding the buyers coming in aggressively. We could end up seeing the market giving us some sort of small pullback before we're able to look for buying opportunities there. Or alternatively, if the price keeps on holding below this particular area, we could easily find the price still coming back down within this particular buyer's area. And if we do see the price giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within this location, we will be looking for buying opportunities there. So do watch out for that. You can clearly see the seller right here who is pushing down. It does seem to be this seller. So do make sure that you could end up either waiting for the price to actually breach this area to the upside, because that could also be another option, where if the price is able to break this area to the upside, you could end up waiting for a small pullback within that area, potentially look for a buying opportunity as well. So just watch out for that. But overall, we'll still be looking for buying opportunities, but we just need to see the sign that the big boy buyers are actually interested. So I hope that is clear on the Australian dollar against the US dollar. If we move on to the next US dollar pair we do have, right here we have the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. Now, yesterday our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, and it is still the same situation today. We have adjusted the level slightly. You can see the level we did have was here. And I know John had pointed out there was some sellers area right here where we did need to watch out for. You can see the price just kept on ranging, holding within that level. So the price did end up actually holding above this area. But at 4 o'clock, we attempted to go up, but we did not necessarily get enough strength, meaning we needed a better price than what we had here. And that's the reason why we adjusted the level slightly to put it there. And right now, as we can clearly see, we are starting to get a better price, definitely inciting people to look for selling opportunities, which is definitely what we want. So for us, we'll be looking for the buys based on the same areas that we did have yesterday. Right now, as the pullback is coming in, you can see they're coming in slowly, which is a good sign. If they're coming in quickly, it might not necessarily be the best sign, but if we do see some sort of probe where you show evidence that the price is actually holding above this particular area, you could definitely end up looking for buying opportunities there. So wait to see what ends up happening on the New Zealand dollar against the US dollar. But in this situation, we'll definitely wait to see at what point in time the big boy buyers are going to be interested. Remember, they could end up coming in during the London market open or the US market open. So moving on to the next US dollar pair. Here we have the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Here our bias is to look for selling opportunities. This is a brand new entry on our watch list. You can see that Canadian dollar strength that really did come in. We have started to get a pullback. The market does seem to be trending quite nicely. You can see the fact that the price is holding within this support and resistance area could potentially find a very nice selling opportunity on this currency pair. Right now, the main thing we want, don't necessarily just jump in on a sell because we're within an area where the sellers, we need signs that the big boy sellers will show interest. So what you could end up easily finding, the market attempts to go to the upside. And if you see big aggressive sellers coming in and the price holds below, then at that point in time, you could end up finding a very nice selling opportunity on the US dollar against Canadian dollar. Alternatively, you can clearly see the buyers seem to be pushing within this particular area. Now, it might not necessarily give you the best risk to reward, but I think if the price is able to actually break this area to the downside and hold below, there could be a potential selling opportunity within that particular area as well. So wait to see what ends up happening, but remember, we will still be looking for sells. Even though the price comes up and goes above, we'll still be looking for sells as long as we're holding below the red support and resistance area. Now, hope that is clear. We move on to the next US dollar pair, brand new entry on our watch list, which is the US dollar against the Swiss franc. You can clearly see the Swiss franc showing us a lot of strength. So in this situation, our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. But one thing to realize is that we are at the lowest point. So if we want to look for sells, this is not the best place to look for those selling opportunities. We need one of two things. Remember, for us to always look for sells, we need some sort of pullback to come in. So if we can end up getting this pullback coming in within the support and resistance area, inciting more people to look for buying opportunities, that would be a very good thing for us. But alternatively, we could easily find the price actually holding below this particular area. And if you do see it holding within this particular location, you could easily find the price actually continuing to go to the downside at that point. But at that point in time, we need to at least incite a few people to look for buys. One way to incite buyers is definitely a push to the upside. But another way is the market just ranging, because all those people who are looking for sells, at that point in time, they start thinking that the sells are done, and then they start entering buying opportunities, not realizing that they're just getting more orders before the market actually continues to go to the downside. So do be careful about that on the US dollar against Swiss franc. But overall, we definitely will still be looking for those selling opportunities here. So moving on to the next and last pair we do have for the US dollar pairs is the US dollar against the Japanese yen. Brand new entry on our watch list. And here our bias is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see the way the price has managed to come down quite aggressively. We've got a small pullback and the price does still seem to be holding within this buyer's area. Remember, in order for us to sell, want to sell within an area where they're sellers. So we could potentially either see one of two options. Either this market is going to give us a pullback in the support and resistance area before we're able to look for selling opportunities, or you could easily find the market being able to break this area to the downside. And if you do see that and the price actually holds below, then we should be able to continue looking for selling opportunities. Because you can clearly see the market potentially attempted to give a small pullback yesterday. So it might not necessarily come back in that area and might just end up continuing to go to the downside, especially if the buyers do not show that they have any interest at this price. So we wait to see what ends up happening on the US dollar against the Japanese yen. So I hope that is clear. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the US dollar with all the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to move on to the British pound pairs and do the exact same thing. So one thing also, guys, to remember is daylight savings times are going to be changing. I know we keep on sounding like a broken record, talking about the timings. Just go daylight savings in the US. I know we keep on talking about the market opening times 10, 11, 4, and 5:30. But on Monday, or at least this Sunday, the timings are going to change. So 1 hour behind, or at least time is going to move 1 hour behind. So meaning rather than it being 4 and 5:30, the same way we've been doing, it's now going to be 3 and 4:30. So do take note of that. At least that's how it's going to be, at least starting on Monday. So today is the last day that it's going to be 4 and 5:30. Starting next week, it's going to be 3 and 4:30. So that's just a quick note on that. So jumping into the British pound pairs, right here, we'll start off with the euro against the British pound. Brand new entry on our watch list. And here our bias is going to be looking for buying opportunity. So right now you can clearly see where we are. We're in an area where the sellers, not necessarily the best place to look for your buying opportunity just yet. In this situation, we either need a proper bridge to the upside. This is not necessarily very convincing, especially due to the fact that we have an area where the sellers or the market did end up giving us some sort of probe. So we wait to see what ends up happening. Hopefully, we can end up getting some sort of pullback coming in before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. Alternatively, you could end up finding the buyers coming in to the upside. And if you do see the price actually holding to the upside, or at least above this particular area, then you could potentially end up looking for a buying opportunity as well. But for right now, I would not necessarily encourage you to end up jumping in on a trading opportunity, because remember, we do have both euro and British pound fundamentals coming up at 10 o'clock. And as well as at 1 o'clock. So we'll end up expecting some volatility at that point in time. So let's wait to see what the news does, whether or not we'll end up actually getting a pullback, or the buyers are actually going to start taking off for us to look for those buying opportunities on the euro against the British pound. So moving on to the next British pound pair, we do have the British pound against the Australian dollar. These are brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. You can see the prices have really come to the upside, but that's definitely a good sign for us, because right now most people are not necessarily thinking that this is a sell. And remember, that's exactly what we want as a seller. But right now, as you can clearly see, when the price is coming to the upside, they are coming in quite strong. So we want to see some sort of slowdown coming in. So if you could potentially end up seeing some sort of probe or price action signal within there, then definitely we'll be able to look for a very nice selling opportunity, especially due to the fact that the price has really gone up. Everyone who was looking for sells, anyone who had a stop loss or trying to jump in on a sell thinking that they're waiting for the pullback, definitely are getting stopped out, but not realizing that as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area, our bias is always going to be looking for selling opportunities on the British pound against the Australian dollar. So we'll wait to see what ends up happening. Let's wait to see if we can end up getting some sort of slowdown, some signs of big boy sellers before we're able to jump in on those trading opportunities. So moving on to the next British pound pair, we do have the British pound against the New Zealand dollar. We have brand new entry on our watch list, and our bias here is going to be looking for selling opportunities. Seems that there's some correlation coming in with both the New Zealand dollar as well as the Australian dollar. And that's okay for us, because remember, in order for us to sell this, we need buyers. And you can clearly see this price has been coming down for quite a bit. And in order for us to end up getting this potential pullback coming in, but we want to see at what point in time will these buyers actually get tired. So we could end up finding the price coming back all the way to the extreme before we're able to look for selling opportunities, or we could end up easily finding the price potentially even coming to the downside. If we do see the price holding below, then we should also be able to find some selling opportunities there. But for right now, looking at the way that buyers are coming up strong, I think it's best to wait on this one. Wait for the news events to come out, because remember, we do have some British pound fundamentals we do end up seeing some volatility or signs that the big boy sellers are going to come in at that time, then we'll definitely be able to look for those selling opportunities then. But for right now, you do need to be patient, wait to see what ends up happening. But remember, if the price breaks and falls above the red SNR, then this pair will fall off our watch list. So hope that is clear on the British pound against the New Zealand dollar as we move on to the next British pound pair. So right here, we have the British pound against the Canadian dollar. Now, this is a pair that we did have yesterday. However, yesterday we were looking for buying opportunities. And it's pretty much based on the same areas that we do have. Can clearly see where the price was earlier in the morning yesterday. Wanted to see either a pullback coming in or a breach and a hold to the upside. So you can see it actually attempted to try and do both. We bounced to the upside there, managed to come down. Unfortunately, could not get all the way to the main buyer's area before it attempted to come up. And you can see even based on the time, that was just at 1 o'clock, not necessarily a good time to look for trading opportunities, but you can clearly see the price was back in the seller's area at 4 o'clock. You can see the price managed to really come to the downside. Remember, we did have some Canadian dollar fundamentals that did bring in a lot of strength, which you can clearly see. So even though the price managed to come back down all the way to this main buyer's area, there was a small buying opportunity if you were still looking for buys. But right now, since the fundamentals have switched for both of them, we will be looking for selling opportunities on the British pound against the Canadian dollar. So in this situation, let's wait to see what ends up happening. Right now, we are potentially getting some sort of small pullback back within the support and resistance area that was broken, which is a good sign. And also a good sign is the way the buyers are coming in. You see, you can clearly see with the other British pound pairs, the British pound against the New Zealand dollar, seeing how aggressive the price is coming to the upside. Those are strong buyers. You do not want to sell in the face of such strong buyers. But in the case of the British pound against the Canadian dollar, these buyers do not necessarily look that strong, which is a good sign for us. So in this situation, we wait to see what ends up happening. We'll potentially find a very nice selling opportunity if we do get the price giving us some sort of probe or price action signal within that particular area. You can see this is the support and resistance area that was breached to the downside, especially if I do go up to the 1 hour time frame. Those who have done the one-on-one mentorship as well as the AMP will realize the pattern that we are starting to get here. The fact that the way the buyers are struggling, the sellers have really come down very aggressive, coming to challenge this buyer's area. And you can see every time the price was back within this buyer's area, what kind of reaction we did end up getting. So right now, the fact that the buyer's reaction is not necessarily very strong, it is a good sign for us. So wait to see what ends up happening on this one, but definitely we will be looking for a very nice selling opportunity on the British pound against the Canadian dollar. So moving on to the next pair we do have, which is the British pound against the Swiss franc. Here, our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, but you can clearly see the areas that we did have. Once the price came to the downside, managed to break this area because we did have the red support and resistance area here. And the price was actually holding below. This pair did fall off our watch list. And you can clearly see the price kept on holding below that particular area and came to the downside. If the price was able to actually come back up and hold above, then we should have been able to look for buying opportunities there. But the good thing is, at least today, the fundamentals have switched for both of them, so we can be able to look for selling opportunities on this kind of pair. But you can clearly see the area where we are at, so within an area where they're buyers. So this is not a good place to look for your selling opportunities, especially also looking at the way the sellers actually started. You always want to, if you're looking for a sell, you want to sell with strong sellers. If you're looking for a buy, you want to buy with strong buyers. So you can clearly see the way the sellers had started their pushes to the downside. Very strong, hardly any buyers. You can clearly see very strong pushes to the downside. But right now, you can clearly see their pushes do seem to be really slowing down. So you don't necessarily want to sell with such weak sellers. You would rather wait for the market to at least give some sort of pullback to come in, potentially within the support and resistance area, inside a few people to look for buyers, wait for the slowdown of sellers, of the buyers, wait for big aggressive sellers to potentially come in within this particular area for us to look for those selling opportunities. But remember, if these buyers do not necessarily show interest, there is the potential that the price can actually end up coming to the downside, breaking this area below. And if you do see the price giving us some sort of pullback and the price falls below this area, then we should be able to look for selling opportunities here as well on the British pound against the Swiss franc. But for now, the best thing to potentially wait for is a pullback to come in. You can't even see the market has actually even pulled right there. So let's wait to see if we can potentially get that pullback coming in before we're able to look for those selling opportunities here on the British pound against the Swiss franc. So moving on to the next and last currency pair we do have. Right here, we have the British pound against the Japanese yen. Yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities, but today, at least, our bias is going to be looking for sells. Now, in terms of yesterday's buys, we did have the red support and resistance area within this particular area. The price managed to continue coming down, and once it broke this area to the downside, this pair did fall off our watch list. Even though the market did attempt to actually come up, similar situation with all the other yen pairs, at around 4 or 5:30, we did end up getting a small push. The market did look as if it was attempting to break and hold above here, but you can clearly see it was just a probe where the market actually just ended up coming to the downside. So the good thing is fundamentals, or at least the biases, have switched for both the British pound and the Japanese yen. So we can be able to look for selling opportunities on this currency pair today. But you can clearly see the area that where we're at, we're within an area where they're biased. So no selling opportunities just yet. So let's wait to see one or two options. Either this pullback needs to actually end up coming back in within the support and resistance area, giving us some sort of probe or price action signal before we're able to look for a sell. Or we could easily find the market actually continuing to go to the downside. If you do see that and the price holds below, the important thing is the price needs to hold below. Don't just see a big red candle to the downside and think that now you should just jump in on a sell. You could easily find the market giving us a probe or something of the sort. Just wait for a pullback, enter the areas, or at least enter your trade within areas of interest, and it does end up increasing your probability of your trade working out. So hope that's clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched the US dollar and the British pound with all the pairs on the buy side. So right now we're going to have a look at the indices, then move on to gold and silver. So we'll start off with the NASDAQ, the NAS 100. Now yesterday, our bias was to look for selling opportunities. It is still the same situation today. You can see the areas that we had pointed out. Now, initially, the price was looking as if it was holding above this particular area here. Did end up getting the price actually coming back in. It was a small pullback, but it would have been a bit difficult to end up grabbing. So if I do end up going to a smaller time frame to be able to see the detail there, once the price was able to come down, you can clearly see we got a small pullback holding below. If you do look at the timing, that was at 11 o'clock during the London market open. So it's not, there's a reason why we keep on pointing out these timings, because it does give you some confidence, or at least knowing when to actually jump in on your trading opportunities. You can see the market didn't manage to come down. We got a small pullback coming in around 5:30 during the New York Stock Exchange, hoping the price was able to come back up there, but it was not able to. It seems that the price really did come in quite strong, potentially following this particular bias area there, because maybe that's the reason why it just ended up bouncing within that location. But the fact that today the bias is, or at least there's, sorry, apologies, but at least the market did manage to come to the downside quite aggressively, which is okay. So at least if you did manage to grab that sell, that would be good. But today, since the bias is still going to be looking for selling opportunities, we need a pullback to come in, and that's potentially what could be coming in right now. So we wait to see what ends up happening. Right now, if you even end up looking at the way the sellers are coming down, these are not strong sellers. These are not the sellers that you want to necessarily be selling with. So in this situation, let's wait to see if we can potentially end up getting some sort of pullback coming in. Hopefully, we end up inciting a few people to look for buys, and when the sellers end up showing up, we could potentially look for those selling opportunities. Remember, if we are able to get the price breaching and holding below this area down here, then we should be able to continue looking for those sells on the NAS 100. Remember, here we're purely technical. So if the price is able to continue going up, you find it breaking above this area, even breaking above the red support resistance area, if that does end up happening, at that point in time, we can actually start looking for buying opportunities on this pair. But for now, as long as we're holding below that area, the sells are definitely still on. So moving on to the next pair that we did have, we have the Dow Jones as well. Here, our bias was to look for selling opportunities, and you can see the areas that we had pointed out yesterday. Now, you can see the market didn't manage to do the same thing with the NAS 100, where we got the price coming down quite aggressive. Got the price back within the bias area during the US market open, so at around 4 and 5:30. You can see the price gave a big push to the upside, but this was after this market did manage to break this area to the downside. I guess this was the pullback coming back within that location. You can clearly see the market was not able to actually break that area to the upside. You can see the price did manage to come down later on. So sticking with the sells, as long as we're holding below this red support and resistance area, is definitely going to improve your probability of your trade working out. So today we'll pretty much focus on the same areas. It does seem, if you're looking at the market structure, it does seem that we are in some sort of range, bouncing between these levels right here. You can clearly see the way the market seems to still be going up and down. So if that's the case and the market is ranging, right now, us being at the buyer's area, or at least at the bottom of the range, this is not the place to look for your selling opportunities. So let's wait to see if we can end up getting the price coming back at the top of the range, giving us some sort of global price action signal for us to look for selling opportunities. But be aware, ranges are very powerful in the sense that you can either end up trading the trade, or at least the range within the market. So meaning buying at the bottom, selling at the top. But alternatively, most times when ranges are actually broken, remember, you need to get proper confirmation that the range is broken, because ranges give so many probes where they end up going to the upside and not actually breaking a level. But if we are able to get the price breaking and holding, that will end up giving you a much clearer selling opportunity at that point in time. So either it's breaching to the upside or the sell side. Ideally, with ranges, that then ends up working a lot. So right now, the fact that within an area where there are buyers, we need to be patient. Let's wait to see. Let's wait either for the pullback or a breach to the downside for low selling opportunities. So hope that is clear on the indices as we now move on to silver. Now on silver, yesterday our bias here was to look for buying opportunities, still is today. You can see during the London session, we did end up getting a pullback, managing to come in. We did end up getting some very nice probes coming in within here. And this was during the US market open. You can see at around 5:30 is when it actually started taking off to the upside. So you can see the trade worked out well, should have managed to trade at the top there, and you can clearly see those sellers do still seem to be holding. So today the bus is still going to be looking for buying opportunities on this pair, pretty much focusing on the same areas that we did have yesterday. Right now, the fact that the price is giving us some sort of small pullback is showing some good signs for potential buying opportunities. Right now, as the price came up, very strong buyers. The sellers looking at how they're coming down, not necessarily the strongest, which is also a good thing for us. So it's one of two things. Either we need the price coming back in, similar situation with what's happening with some of these indices, where you could find the price potentially starting to end up entering into some sort of range. So it's definitely better to look for those buying opportunities within there. But there's potential that the price could end up actually continuing to go to the upside. And if we do get the price holding above and it lines up within the market opening time, especially due to the fact that today we have the non-farm payroll, could end up finding a very nice buying opportunity here on silver. We'll wait to see what ends up happening. But remember, we are purely technical on the indices as well as gold and silver, meaning if we break and hold below this red support and resistance area, then at that point in time, our bias will switch and we will start looking for selling opportunities there. So hope that is clear as we move on to the next and last time pair we do have, which is gold, fan favorite for most. You can clearly see on gold, pretty much similar situation to yesterday, or at least the day before, or at least even looking at silver on how it is reacting. So yesterday, our bias was to look for buying opportunities, and it is still the same situation today. So you can see the areas that John had pointed out. The market was within the area where the sellers, so you needed one of two things, and you can even clearly see the same illustration John had pointed out, waiting for either a breach the upside and a hold above for us to look for the buy, or we could end up getting a pullback. So it seems that the pullback didn't manage to come in. It looked as if we were breaking this area to the downside, but it came back in and was holding above it, especially if it lines up with the market opening times. So you can see around 4 and 5:30 or so. That's when the price did manage to start taking off to the upside. And you can clearly see it managed to get all the way to this main seller's area. Now, it does seem, you can see there's a blue support and resistance area. It does seem that, especially if I do go up to the 1 hour time frame, it looks like this was just this support and resistance area, but where the market is tapping. But if you realize that we do seem to be in some sort of range, and that's the reason why I did point out that on silver, we could potentially be getting into some sort of range as well, where you could find the market actually just bouncing between these two levels. So due to that fact, and the market, we are going to be looking for buying opportunities on silver, and the market is ranging. Best place to look for the buy is definitely at the bottom of the range. So just move this. So definitely best place to look for the buy is at the bottom of the range. So hopefully we can end up getting some sort of pullback coming in before we're able to look for those buying opportunities. But alternatively, remember within this range, we are able to get the price breaking this area to the upside, and we do see the price actually holding above, then we definitely will be looking for buying opportunities there on gold. So I hope that is clear, at least on what we're looking at. Gold did end up working out yesterday. We're back within this area, but it does still seem to be holding. So let's wait to see what ends up happening. Don't necessarily end up entering any trade right now. We are in the middle of the range. We have done that, especially I know I've done that when I started trading, where you enter a trade here, then you're just going through an emotional roller coaster where you find the price going up and you're in profit, then it starts coming down, you're in loss, then it starts going up, you're in profit. So you're happy, sad, It reaches a point, it does that so many times, you just say, let me just close it to avoid the headache. So it's always better. Just look for the buys within the buyer's area and the sell within the seller's area. It will avoid you such a headache. So hope that is clear on all the currency pairs. As you can see, we've mixed and matched them with all the pairs on the buy side. Remember, today we do have the non-farm payroll as well as a number of fundamentals during the London session. You can see some British pound fundamentals, some euro news as well. So both at 10 o'clock as well as at 1 p.m. as well, we do end up having some GDP news also for the euro. So we do end up expecting some big movements there, and especially as well during the US session, big news event, the non-farm payroll that's going to be coming out first of the month, or at least first Friday of the month. We do end up expecting a lot of volatility. Or if you are going to be trading the non-farm payroll, advice would be not necessarily end up entering too big of a lot size. It being a Friday, you don't want your profits from the week to be lost just based on one trade, especially based on the way the markets are going to move. Another advice is you can tell, you see the news is coming out at 4:30. You can wait a few minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes to wait for the market to actually do its thing, stop people out, get rid of all the liquidity grabs that are happening there before you end up looking for a clear opportunity then. So just be careful about that. And remember, today is the last day that we have the US session going to be at 4 and 5:30. No, we keep on sounding like a broken record, but the timings, remember, are going to be changing. So rather than it being 4 and 5:30, it's going to be 3 and 4:30. But that's going to be starting from next week on Monday. So we will be reminding you for that as well. So today, do take advantage of the fact that the price is, or at least the US market, it's the last day for it being at 4 and 5:30. So I guess that's it from me. Let me see if there are any questions. So I'm seeing Tony. They're saying good morning, team, and good to see you, Rich. Good morning to everyone too. Glad to see you here, Tony. Yeah, been waiting also for the screenshots as well. I know you have sent some. Looking forward to a lot more from you as well, but glad that you could all join us. So not seeing anything else, which is okay. We do need to get ready. At least we have around 15 minutes or so to prepare for this US, or at least the London market that's going to be open. Remember, Frankfurt opens at 10 o'clock. So we went to see what ends up happening either 10 or 11 on both the British pound and the euro pairs. So do take note of that. So that's it from me. I want to thank you guys so much for joining me today. Hope you have an amazing trading day and also a great weekend ahead. Happy trading, guys. God bless and bye for now. Cheers, guys.